Hey beauties, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing well. It's Bridget, and today I'm going to be doing a Dollar Tree book haul. I went to Dollar Tree not for books, but because I needed some earplugs, and I like the ones at Dollar Tree because you get the little case in there, and I like to use these if I'm studying, you know, or things like that. So I just like to have these in my book bag, and mine were kind of old, so I needed new ones. And what I realized is that I really love the Dollar Tree book section, and I had forgotten because it had been so long since I had been inside Dollar Tree. And so I have books that I want to haul. It's my first book haul. Go easy on me if I do a terrible job. I will get better at hauling books. My normal area of hauling stuff is clothes and makeup. So yeah, go easy on me. But I have some really cool books that I wanted to show you. And the first one is Songs of Willow Frost by James Ford. And I have a couple books that I feel like might creep me out a little bit, but I could not get them off my mind, and so I had to get them, and this is one of them. This book is basically about a boy. I cannot remember his name. I'm pretty sure that he's orphaned, and he's living in this orphanage with a lot of other kids, and then he sees this lady, I believe, who he believes is his mom, and so I'm pretty sure that he goes on this journey, and I think he might actually take some of his friends with him to find this lady and prove that she's his mom. And it just sounds awesome. But for some reason, when I was reading the spine, it sounded so good that I needed to know what happened. But it also kind of creeped me out a little bit. So this is one of the books that I think might creep me out a little bit, but I have to read this book. So I'm so excited that I saw this. And then the next, where do I put these? Down here on the floor, I guess. The next book, this is another book that for whatever reason I think might creep me out a little bit. And one thing you should know about me is I don't do horror books or anything like that. And I don't think these will be horror books, but I do kind of feel like they might be suspenseful. And that worries me a little bit, but we're going to do it and I'll let you know. This is The House of Journalists by Tim Finch. And this is what it looks like. And I'm actually so glad that I saw this cover, because when I had initially saw this book, oh, here's itching. When I had initially saw this book on Goodreads, the other cover looked so much creepier. It was a little bit cooler, but it was a lot creepier. And so I'm glad I saw this one because I feel like that kind of eased me in a little bit. But basically, this is a book about these journalists who are in exile, and they all come and kind of live at this house, which is supposed to be like a refuge for them. And they're supposed to tell their story of who they are, why they're there. It just sounds so freaking good. And then for some reason there's this one guy there who doesn't want to share and doesn't want to tell his story, and then there's another guy who I believe is kind of over the house, and I think he owns the house or something like that, and he begins to try to find out who this guy is, and you know, is he a spy or whatever it is. It just sounds really good. It sounded kind of suspenseful. When I read it initially, I was like, this would be a really good movie. So I really hope it turns out to be good. I will report back. And then the last book that I think might creep me out a little bit, but I had to get it, is the Archetype. I hope I'm saying that right, and it's by M.D. Waters. I will have all of my books linked down below. But basically this book, it really made me think about this movie that was called, I think it's called See Jane Run, if you've ever saw that. And it's about a lady who loses her memory, and she just wakes up one day and she can't remember who she is or anything. And then the movie unfolds from there. And it's kind of the same thing with this book. Somebody loses their memory and they can't remember who they are, and then the story just takes off from there. And I love those movies. And so when I read the synopsis for this book, I was like, oh, you need to read that. And sometimes those movies do creep me out, but they end up being so good and I love them. So whether this creeps me out or not, I'm going to read it, and I hope it's really, really good. So those are all the books that I think might creep me out. Now on to the other books. I have two more hardcovers to show you. And this one I've actually read, and I'm thinking that I want to do a review, discussion, something on this book. And this is Ex by Peters Gethers. I have never read anything by him. Actually, I've never read anything by any of the authors that I'm mentioning today. So this was my first experience with him. And what made me get it, the cover didn't really do anything for me. But the story, like the story on the back, it was kind of written as a letter to this guy, really did. So Bob is a doctor, and he's one of the leading veterinarians. Yeah, he's one of the leading veterinarians in New York. And so this story follows his life, and it really sounds like it's going to be a romance kind of story, but there's so much more to it than that. And like I said, I have read this and I've rated it on Goodreads, but I'm thinking I want to do a discussion on this book. And then the final book, this book just seemed very, very unique. Here it is right here. And this is called The Book of Jonah by Joshua Max Feldman. And so basically this book is supposed to be an extremely loose kind of retelling / inspired by the actual biblical book of Jonah. Now, I'm going to be honest and say that I don't remember a whole lot about the actual biblical book of Jonah, so I need to revisit that. But this is supposed to be a very loose retelling on it, of course, about a guy named Jonah, and he's kind of at this crossroad in his life where things are happening with his career and his personal life, his love life, and then he's trying to figure it all out and really figure out, who am I, why am I here? It sounded really, really cool. And so what really got me is, how do you know if you're chosen? And I was like, oh, how do we know? So that's the last hardback I got. I cannot wait to tear into that book. And then finally I have some paperbacks. So let me get them all over here. There's quite a few of them. And so the first paperback I have, I started to realize how much I really like fantasy. And so that's what made me pick up this book. It sounded awesome. This is Pirate Freedom by Gene Wolfe. I've never read anything by Gene Wolfe, or at least his name. I hope it's, the name isn't ringing a bell for me. And so let me read to you what made me really want to read this book. Now, this is a book that I hadn't heard a lot of, but when I read this first paragraph, I knew I had to have this book. So it says, it starts with a confession from a priest. His past has reached further back than what many would consider possible. Before he was a priest, he was a young pirate captain. And before he was a pirate, he was just Chris, a boy living in a monastery in Cuba the day after tomorrow. What? Don't spoil me for any of these books, but if you have read this book, let me know if it's amazing. I mean, what, like, he was a priest, he was what? Can't wait. Then the next book is Purity by Jackson Pearce. And so this book, it kind of sounded a little bit like a coming of age story, or just it just sounded really good. So basically this book is about a girl named Shelby, and she made some promises to her mom before her mom passed away. And then it seems like those promises are being put to the test by things that are happening in her life right now. And I think, you know, she promised to listen to her father. It was her first promise, to love as much as possible and to live without restraint. And then it seems like, and you know, she's in high school, and then it seems like these promises are being put to the test. And so it really sounds like this book is about her journey to either keep or break those promises, and her reasons for doing either. And I'm not even gonna lie, this was kind of a cover buy for me. Like, the story sounded really interesting, but I don't know, they did a good job when they picked this blue, because I was just like, I need you. So I got that. And then I also got, this story is so unique. As you can see that I've actually kind of already started reading the first couple pages, because I was just like, what is this? So this is called A Girl Walks Into a Wedding, Your Fantasy, Your Rules. That should have tipped me off, but it didn't. And this is by Helena S. Paige, who also wrote A Girl Walks Into a Bar. And basically this story is kind of a you direct the story. So you read a little bit of the story, and then you're giving two choices. And so you're kind of directing the story, and then based on the choice you make, it tells you to either go to one page or the other. And then when you go to that next page, there's another component to the story. So you read some more, and then you're given another choice. And so you're kind of directing the story. And I just thought that was so cool. I've never read anything like that. And I also want to see if it's something I would even like. If I do, I'm definitely going to try to find A Girl Walks Into a Bar. And I think what I'll probably do with this book is kind of go through it and really pick, you know, and make my decisions. But eventually I'm going to read it both ways, just to kind of see, you know, how the story unfolds the other way. So it's like two stories for one, and it just sounds really interesting. If you've read anything like that, let me know your thoughts on it, if you like that concept or if you hate it. But I'm gonna try it out, see what I think. And then the next book I picked up is this book right here called Putting Makeup on the Fat Boy, and it's by Bill Wright. And this is what this book looks like. And this book has won the ALA Stonewall Book Award winner. And this book is about a boy named Carlos, and he's really into fashion, really into makeup, and he gets this amazing job at Macy's. He's a college student. Look at me, I'm a college student. He's a high school student, and he gets this amazing job at Macy's, and then he starts doubting himself as he sees how fierce the competition is and how, you know, amazing these other makeup artists are. And so he's faced with this question of, am I good enough? Is this really what I should be doing? And that's just something I could really relate to at this point in my life, because I feel like I'm kind of at a point in my life where I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, what's happening next? What are you doing? You need to plan and really figure out what's happening in the rest of your life. And so when I read that, I just really empathized with him, because I just understand that feeling of trying to figure out what I'm doing and really making sure that the decisions I'm making are really laying out the foundation for, you know, what I want the rest of my life to look like. And I just empathized with this story, and I was just like, Carlos, I understand, man. So I want to read it and just see what happens to him. And then this next book, this is so, I'm kind of confused by this book, but it sounds awesome, so awesome. It kind of made me think about Gossip Girls in a way, but it also kind of made me think about Glee, but it also kind of made me think about High School Musical, and I was like, you need that. So this is Drama by Paul Ruditis. I hope I'm saying that right. And basically, this book seems to be composed of two smaller books, and they are called The Four Dorothys and Everyone's a Critic. However, there's two other books in this series that's called Interests and Exits and Show Don't Tell. So I don't know if they also have two books in them. And I'm really hoping that this is the first book in the series so that I can get started with it. But basically, this book is about this school, and it's kind of following these kids that's in the theater program at this school. And it's a really I don't know the word that I'm looking for. The theater group is really well known, and it's like really competitive, and so it's really following their lives in this theater group. And it sounds like it's a lot of drama and people trying to figure out who they are and what they're doing and who their real friends are. And it just sounds like something that I would be into. I was like, if that's a TV show, that's something that you would watch. So I really wanted to check it out. However, I have to look and see if this is the first one in the series, because I don't want to be spoiled if it's not. But I started reading it in Dollar Tree, and I was standing there for so long reading this. So I really hope I haven't spoiled myself, but so far I really like it. So I'm going to keep going with that. And then finally, the last thing I picked up is Landry Park by Bethany Hagen. And this is a 2-book duology. The second book is Jubilee Manor. And so basically this book is about a 16-year-old girl named Madeline Landry. Is that her name? Yes, this book is about a 16-year-old girl named Madeline Landry, and she lives in a world where there's two different classes of people. There's the ruling class, and they are called the gentry, and then there's also the rootless, and they're the impoverished class. And so she's lived a really sheltered, you know, just great life because she's a part of this ruling class. But then she meets this guy, of course, right? There's always a guy. Then she meets this guy, and she starts to uncover all of these secrets and stuff about her world, and what she thought doesn't really seem to match up with what's actually going on in the world. And so next thing you know, a rebellion starts, and then her and this guy is caught in the middle of all of this drama, and it sounded awesome. So I'm really looking forward to reading this book, and I hope I enjoy it a lot. And that is everything that I picked up from Dollar Tree. Really looking forward to getting into some of these books. I hope you enjoyed it. I will also link down below the other booktube related videos that I've done, and probably also put them up on the screen somewhere. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.